Hi, y'all. Good morning. Thank you. Thank y'all for being here. And I want to thank Chief Drake, who I just spent a few minutes with, along with a large number of leadership within his department. Metro National Police Department has made the city proud in their response from a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to make sure that I express my gratitude to the officers who were a part of the operation, but also to leadership. We see the challenge that they face every day and the lives that are put on the line to protect Tennesseans, and they made us proud all across the nation. An example of how law enforcement and their professionalism and their sacrifice and their commitment can save lives, and certainly that happened in Covenant, in the Covenant situation a couple weeks ago. So the past 2 weeks have not only challenged those who were involved in this from a law enforcement standpoint, it's challenged every Tennessean. The tragedy, the struggle, my family included, everyone's family. 6 innocent lives lost, 3 of them being children. It has certainly been a stark reminder to all of us about what really matters. I've said before that we are in a situation like that. The truth is that we're facing evil itself, and we can't stop evil, but we can do something. And when there is a clear need for action, I think that we have an obligation, and I certainly do, to remind people that we should set aside politics and pride and accomplish something that the people of Tennessee want us to get accomplished. It's been a very emotionally charged couple of weeks, but we have to stay focused on the path forward. Tennesseans are depending on us. I brought forth a piece of legislation last week. The the Tennessee House in the General Assembly passed that school safety legislation in an incredibly bipartisan way, 95-4, the vote for that school safety legislation. And I bring up that vote to encourage Tennesseans that, I think before Covenant, we would not have had, it wouldn't have been possible to get a 95-4 vote on a piece of legislation surrounding school safety. We should be encouraged that there is a moment in time where people can come together and get something done. Last Monday, I had a press conference to talk about that bipartisan bill, and I said at the time that that bill was the next step, but that it wasn't the last step. And I also said that day, and I still say today, we can all agree that it is possible and it is important that we find a way to remove individuals who are a threat to themselves or to our society, to remove them from access to weapons. I'm asking the legislature to bring forth thoughtful, practical measures to do that, to strengthen our laws to separate those dangerous people from firearms, while at the same time preserving the constitutional rights of the people of this state. And I also said that I thought we should get it done by this year. And by this year, what I mean is by this legislative session. It is possible to get this done. I think we can work together. I've been working with the legislature for the past 2 weeks about next steps. There are a lot of details yet to hammer out, but let me tell you what I think is needed as we move forward. First, I'm asking the General Assembly to bring forth a new order of protection law. Our current law is proven and effective in many circumstances, especially with regard to domestic violence. But this new, stronger order of protection law will provide the broader population cover, safety from those who are in danger to themselves or to the population. Protective orders are led by law enforcement. They have a high standard burden of proof. There is due process, requires clear and convincing evidence that a person that has shown that they are a real threat to themselves or to others, that person, that individual should not have access to firearms. Our judicial system is prepared. It has years of experience in dealing with orders of protection. The process is there. They'll be well equipped for this new order. I believe that this will protect victims, that it'll hold dangerous people accountable and away from firearms, and that it'll preserve constitutional rights at the same time. As I said, the specifics are yet to be determined, and there'll be much to work together. And I mean, we will have to work together in order to get this done. But I believe I believe we can. I believe we will. Both Democrats and Republicans in the General Assembly. And we have had conversations with leaders in both parties, on both sides of the aisle, because there's a genuine desire and commitment to move forward with what Tennesseans are depending on us to move forward with. The second part of this is, in order for law enforcement to do their part in separating dangerous individuals from firearms, officers have to have and rely upon up-to-date information. The existing background check process for purchasing a firearm only works when there is accurate and timely information that's available. Later today, I'm going to sign an executive order that will ensure that the process of sharing information more closely guarantees the safe, lawful purchase of firearms in Tennessee. The executive order will, for one thing, set a 72-hour clock for reporting new criminal activity. It will ensure and require that the courts submit timely, accurate information directly to the TBI. It will require and ask the TBI to examine the current process for purchasing firearms, to look at operational barriers and sharing information, to provide a report within 60 days of the issues that exist in that process, so that if there are changes needed, we can make those changes. This executive order, along with a new, stronger order of protection law, will provide that next step in making sure that our communities are a safer place to live. We should be very serious about real solutions and about getting real solutions across the finish line. And I look forward to working with the General Assembly to do just that. It's possible to get this done. We should work to set aside our differences and accomplish something that Tennesseans want us to get accomplished. Nothing is more important than the safety of Tennesseans, and certainly the safety of Tennessee children. Happy to answer your questions, Sam.
We've had a situation in the last couple of weeks with two, maybe three lawmakers being expelled. They wound up expelling two, one's now returned. Why have you not addressed that as the governor, calling for people maybe have calmer heads, maybe taking more of a leadership role on that?
I think there are a lot of things that have been happening in the last couple of weeks. For me, what is most important that's happening is that we recognize that this is an emotionally charged environment as a result of what happened 2 weeks ago. My focus is to stay focused on a solution for what happened 2 weeks ago. And that's what today is about. There are issues all around us, but right now is the time to set those issues to the side so that we can accomplish what Tennesseans want us to get accomplished.
Do you think you should have urged the speaker not to expel the two, because it put Tennessee in just from what people are saying all over the world, it's put Tennessee in a terrible light? So
what I'm going to urge the General Assembly to do is to work together so that we can bring forward something that needs to happen and move forward in a way that's productive. Kimberly.
Governor, I'm going to ask a question that I very similar to last week, is that we have a chairman in the Senate saying he's not going to listen to gun-related legislation. While this isn't necessarily, I think, directly a gun-related bill, it does touch on it. It would have to go through judiciary. Have you talked to the chairman? you're going to propose this, but what are the odds of it actually making it through the legislature?
Yeah, so I've certainly been speaking with legislative leadership and with leadership from both the Democrat and the Republican Party within our legislature to say we can focus. Certainly people come to the table and find compromise. That's the way we have to do things going forward. If we're gonna get something accomplished that's here to date been incredibly difficult, if not virtually impossible to do, it's going to require coming together, laying down our previously held positions potentially, and it really is just going to require finding the things that we agree upon together and moving forward with those things. And I suspect the chairman will do that.
Last week, you basically said there's a lot of definitions to red flag laws.
Yeah.
In your mind, these two proposals that does this fall under a red flag umbrella, or is
Where
does
what?
this fall?
So what it falls under is a law that I think is appropriate for our state today, given the circumstances we're in. We decided to address this in a way that we thought would bring people together in our legislature with what we know about the situation in our state and the order of protection laws that we have, and to understand how best to do something in short fashion that would be substantive and effective and create a safer environment. Now, we have a lot of folks, so let's do one question, and then if we need, or a real quick follow-up. I know I want to give you all your questions, but let's do it quickly.
Yeah, in terms of, I'm sure you've spoken with both speakers. Randy McNally has shown some openness to some sort of red flag law. What have your conversations been like with Cameron Sexton? Has he expressed any willingness there?
I think everyone, leadership, from speakers as well as other leaders within the General Assembly, both Democrat and Republican, have expressed a desire to do something. They've expressed a desire to move forward. I have challenged them to bring forth ideas. I talked about that in the last press conference, have subsequently met with those leaders, and there are a lot of leaders in the General Assembly, and said, bring forth ideas and let's start this process. I do believe that we should get it done during session, and they're bringing forth ideas. So yes, both speakers, leaders, all have thoughts on where this should go, and that's why I feel confident that we can get something done.
And that includes on the protective order issue?
That's right.
Melissa? Governor, you say you called on lawmakers to bring forth ideas. Do you have lawmakers who are right now today pledged to sponsor legislation to bring forth the extreme order of protection?
I haven't asked for that. I'm asking for ideas, and the General Assembly will determine what that process looks like for them. That's for them to determine, but what I want to have is a piece of legislation that we think we can get passed.
A quick follow-up. There are a few Republicans who have gone out already public to say that they would not support a red flag law, extreme order protection. Do you think that the ideas that have been presented to you would bring them to the table, or do you think that there's enough bipartisan support without some opponents?
I certainly hope that there's bipartisan support sufficient to get this done. We're at a moment in time in Tennessee where, because of the incredible emotional responses to what's happened in the last couple of weeks, all across the board, I'm one that believes that really difficult circumstances can bring about really positive outcomes. I talk about that a lot. The redemption of struggle or tragedy can bring about a positive thing for our community. I think those of us who are in the positions that we're in the General Assembly, and certainly in my office, we think now is that time. I certainly believe it's that time. And I'm hoping and hopeful that people will not have preconceived ideas, will be open to discussing and bringing forth ideas and saying, we have to move forward. This is our moment to lead and to give the people of Tennessee what they deserve.
Yeah, so you mentioned the current law is proven and effective in, I think you said domestic violence circumstances. What is different and stronger about this? Could you go a little more into detail about that?
Well, the details won't be, I mean, we won't know what those details are until we have everyone work together, but an existing order of protection law deals particularly and specifically with domestic relationships and relations and danger between those domestic violence situations. This would be a different order of protection law that would deal with those who are a danger to others, those who are a danger to themselves, that goes beyond the scope of orders of protection that exist in Tennessee today.
Hey, Chris with Channel 2. Let's just make sure we get to everybody.
Sorry, Governor, I'm back here.
Yep. I saw you earlier.
Governor, you faced significant criticism for having a little bit of delay between the Covenant shooting and some of the response from your office and your administration. I think Governor Andy Beshear yesterday was on the scene within hours of that shooting happening. How do you respond to some of that criticism?
Governor Beshear and I talked yesterday. He lost a personal friend in his tragedy. He knew and had reached out to me, and we are friends, and we obviously share similar roles in two different states. So it's heartbreaking. And I pass by Covenant School every day. Everyone responds in the way that they think is most important in the moment. What the situation is, they're unique and different, but I'm very troubled. We all are about what happened yesterday. Certainly, what happened in our state a couple of weeks ago. But that's part of why this is so important. You know, this is not just about school shootings. This legislation would impact the broader community, and it would impact people who are a danger to the broader community, not just to schools and children. Situations like what happened in Kentucky yesterday might be averted by a piece of legislation that we're talking about delivering today.
Channel 4.
And when do you expect us to see changes in schools across Tennessee when it comes to more mental health resources, SROs, enhanced security?
So the first step is that we brought forth a proposal last week and delivered it last week. That was a part of the budget proposal that will be passed in this legislative session, that will be implemented in the calendar year beginning July 1st. So the SROs in every school, for example, the armed guards in every school, for example, that is a budget item that we just presented. Will have to make its way through the legislature, be passed, and then implemented in next year's calendar year.
Marta?
Yes, after Parkland, there was a bill running through the legislature to arm teachers, and your predecessor said he did not think that was the right approach. Now, after Covenant, there's a bill running through the legislature to arm teachers, and I'd like to know if you would support that, especially given that under this legislation, parents would not be notified if their child is in a classroom with a teacher who is armed.
So I haven't read that piece of legislation because, as you know, there are lots of bills, and they have to get through the legislature before we really do a lot of analysis on it. It may or may not make it through committee. Broadly, I've said that I'm willing to look at anything that would keep our schools safer. Timing is really, really important, and I'll be very interested to see the timing of this piece of legislation and how it fits into a broader strategy. Our strategy today that I have brought forth, that is not in that strategy. As you know, we delivered legislation last week. That is a broad, comprehensive school safety strategy. This piece of legislation is the next step in public safety. That would include school safety, but I'll have to look more at that when it gets closer to my desk. Blaze?
Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the news about House Speaker Cameron Sexton and the representatives expelling 2 members. They are on the way back now. At least one of them is already back. What are your thoughts on what took place there?
You know, I think that as I said before, what I've tried to stay focused on is what I think is my responsibility in response to the tragedy from 2 weeks ago. I think it created a lot of emotion that has gone on all around us. But we have to stay focused. And we have an opportunity now, the General Assembly, the House, as we move forward, for those members to all come together in a way that I think Tennesseans are hopeful and expecting them to do.
And Representative Justin Jones, who just got back, said that he's going to use all his 15 bills to try to file gun legislation. What are your views on gun legislation? Is that eventually going to be part of the plan also?
Yeah. I think what we're talking about today is actually taking any member's ideas and bringing them forth and putting them on the table and trying to determine the way forward that will actually get passed and can actually bring about a safer community in shorter distance than long distance. We need to do this now.
Gotcha. And is there any state that you're copying? When you think about
Actually,
these
we're trying to
executive
create one that's unique for our state, that understands the uniqueness of our state and the ability to get this done in Tennessee.
Let's get to the station for that.
Yeah. Hi, Governor. At any point in the last 15 days, have you wished that you had done something differently? And if not, does that mean that you think that you and other state leaders have led well?
Yeah, so I think that what's important when you have an incident that no one wishes ever happened, I will certainly say that I, in the last 15 days, was reminded of how I hoped this would never happen in our state. And the right response to that for me and for our leadership is to say, where do we go forward? That's what I've been thinking about. How is it that we move forward, create a safer place today than we had before? And step 1 last week, step 2 today, step 3 that will not stop for the next 4 years, in my view, as we continue to do what is our obligation to keep people safe.
So does that mean you think you and other state leaders have led well over the last?
I think that if we are going to lead well, then now is the moment to bring forth changes, and that's what this is an attempt to do. Is to lead well into the future, so that Tennesseans understand their leaders are in fact responding as they should.
Maggie?
And this morning you've talked a lot about your legislation that you're putting forward. For people who think that what you're putting forward isn't enough, what's your message to them?
I think we've said there are steps, and we should never stop. We should never stop creating a safer environment. That's why I just talked to law enforcement and thanked them for what they were doing. One of those officers said that he believes that his response was the result of 10 years of continued improvement in processes along the way that led to the moment that he saved lives. And that's why we should never stop. This is not the answer. This is an appropriate step, and we'll continue to make those steps.
Anyone?
Hi, sir. So you've talked a lot about you want to focus on legislation, you want to focus on the path forward. The reality is the decision to expel move to expel 3 members, expel 2, drew the attention there. And there is the symbolism of choosing to expel 2 black men from a predominantly white legislature. So was expulsion appropriate, especially when you're calling on people to work together and to make it through an emotionally charged time?
Yeah, you talked about the expulsion of 2 black men, for example. I've spent some time here in the last week talking to black leaders in this community. I'll be meeting with a group of black leaders today. Now is a time, given the circumstances from the shooting to today, now is a time where we need to be listening. We need to be, that is a part of how you move forward productively in an environment that we find ourselves in. You listen, you take in, you understand that there are differences. You set aside the high emotion. You work together to say, how can we take those emotions and move them in a productive way forward, including what happened in the last week. Now, that was a House matter. My focus has been on this, but I actually believe that we can take those situations, listen to people about how they feel on this subject, on that subject, on any of the emotionally charged issues that we face. I said before, when you have something happen like as evil, as destructive, as emotionally difficult as what happened 2 weeks ago, you would expect people to have intense emotional responses, and that's normal for people. We've all had them, but now is the opportunity that we have to work together with those emotional differences.
So in the spirit of that outreach, are you going to reach out to Representative Jones and then Representative Pearson if he is seated back?
I meet with legislators on a regular basis. I've had every new legislator has had dinner in my home at my request. I meet with legislators on both sides of the aisle for issues that are important to Tennesseans every day. Yes.
Last question, Matt.
For Governor, thousands of Tennesseans have spoken out and questioned your leadership, both your ability and willingness to lead in their opinions. How do you meet these people who don't have political power, who are just average Tennesseans? Is there a way to kind of convince them that quite frankly you care about them and not corporate interest, as they've said?
Yeah, I think it's important that people express their voices. By the way, we're a government of the people, and if people should express what they view. And this is a remarkable country in that you can express your opinions about government leaders without fear of retribution. That's really, really important. So voices on any spectrum are welcome, and the input is welcome. And I will take information that is coming from all over the state of Tennessee and use that information to the best of my ability to wake up every day and ask God to give me wisdom and discernment on what is the best path forward to serve Tennesseans in this state who have broad, different opinions and views about what that path forward is. But I'm in the position to do that, and I take that information then and try to work together, listening to the voices of people all across the state, and say, what is the best path forward to serve Tennesseans and make life better for Tennesseans? And in this particular situation, to make life safer for Tennesseans.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Thank y'all.
Gun stores.